Welcome to The Medical Conspiracy with Dr. Carpenter.
Good afternoon and welcome back. We are with you again, and hopefully this time you'll hear our show. You'll hear what we're saying. Last Saturday, obviously, there was silence for hours and hours with technical problem on Talk Superstation, so our show wasn't heard at the right time on Saturday. I know that people could go on Spreaker and get it, or the archive and get last Saturday's show, but not on Talk Superstation. So I hope that this one will go through and will be heard. The thing that upset me was that in last week's show, I was addressing a major concern. I was discussing an important issue and addressing a major concern, and I was asking for people to do something about it, contact their state representative and raise a fuss about that. And so it wasn't heard, and that's pretty upsetting. But for that reason...
But it's up already. It's up on Spreaker and YouTube already.
Right, it's there, and for people that do that. But for people that want to hear it directly on Saturday at the station, they couldn't hear it. And I know that on Spreaker, there are a lot of people that, and even YouTube, that are outside the U.S. that look at it. And this is not something that anybody outside the U.S. can help or do anything about it. They can't. So, but before I repeat all of that, at least a major point, well, we don't have a real station identification to do.
Well, you already mentioned TalkSuperstation.com and Spreaker.com and, well, of course, YouTube. And let's see, we're also on the because of the TalkSuperstation.com. We still go out on the TuneIn app at the same time as normal. It's 3 to 5 Saturdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays.
But that didn't work last Saturday, even the apps, so. Oh, well, yeah. But before we get to the medical, and I repeat what I said last week, part of it, just one point that it's important to review, we might want to say our 2 cents worth on what's happening with that 370 flight from Malaysia. And Randy's the one that has been reading a lot about it.
No, not really. I really haven't.
More than me. I haven't read anything today.
I don't know.
The other days.
It's just been coming together in pieces, you know. Last week or week before last, I think it was, we mentioned it, and I said something about what's the semiconductor company that had 20 employees on the plane, and for some reason, what I had read, I thought I'd gotten out of the article that they had a technology that could replace internal combustion engines, but apparently not. It's something to do with stealth technology. And one of the theories being made is, could it have been a demonstration of the stealth tech, the disappearance? Could the disappearance have actually been a demonstration of it?
Yeah, but that has been, 13 days now. Don't you think it's time to cut it out and come up with it? If that were the case?
You would think if it was something like that, we'd have been told
by now. It's been days and days. So I don't know. It's possible, but that's stretching it, though, if it's the case. And the other thought,
I don't know if we'll ever know the truth about that or not. I don't know if it'll be another 9/11 or.
It all depends on what the plans were. Okay. And what about these agents and this special cargo and the agents that transported it being dead? I mean...
Yeah, apparently
I don't know.
And it didn't say much, the article I saw didn't say a whole lot about what the cargo was, but said that there was a special high security cargo that had to be protected by Navy SEALs when it was being offloaded, and it was destined for this plane, and it was, it already was in the manifest. They knew it was coming on the plane, but after the cargo was offloaded within a certain amount of time, I don't know if it was 2 days or something like that, both of the SEALs that were guarding it, whoop, gone. Somebody offed them. And
that's weird that they kill them after. That must be the side that sent them, not the enemy, whoever was after. So that sounds, as I told you, that sounds like Mission Impossible.
Got a burn notice.
Self-destruct, even the carrier, not just the information, right? Self-destruct, not just the tape with the detail of the mission, but also the participant.
And then there's this the article I was reading. It kept referencing different sources, and there was one Russian article where a U.S. Former Air Force pilot is being interviewed, and he said he suspected some sort of industrial espionage being behind the whole thing.
It could be. It could be that what was this quote precious cargo on board was what they were after,
Possibly.
And they diverted the plane, so it's not necessarily because of the stealth technology advertising. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm just saying very strange things are going on, and they really are more like out of a Mission Impossible episode than anything. But anyway, I don't know what to tell you. Life is really weird these days. And, because why would the pilot of the plane mess up his career, his good income for something like that, no matter how much money they can offer? I don't see it, okay? I don't see the pilot messing up his respectable existence for something like that. So it would have to be a tremendous amount of money, but even with that, he couldn't go back to his family. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so that's my point of view. Whatever, but I'm just fed up of all these weird things happening, no answer to it, and people being...
Hey, I'll tell you something you probably don't know if you haven't watched the news in a while. Westboro Baptist Church founder Fred Phelps, dead at 84.
Okay.
Oh, the whole internet is going lighting up about, Westboro Baptist founder finally dies.
What is Westboro?
Westboro Baptist Church. They're the ones that have the buses, and they travel all over the country they used to go to soldiers' funerals, and they'd stand out with picket signs saying that it's God's retribution for homosexuality and abortion. That's why our soldiers are dying, and they celebrate every time a soldier dies, but it got to be more than just that. They would go protest all kinds of crazy stuff with these signs that say God hates fags and.
Yeah, but what is that got to do with soldiers dying in battle? I don't know, in enemy territory. There is no connection between those two.
I know, but the guy...
The founder is dead, so people are happy about it?
Yeah, apparently, and I don't know the whole story, but there's something in the story I read last week, because apparently he's been on his deathbed for a while, so there's been articles that have been being written about him.
So even
and there was some internal rifts, though, in his family, and for whatever reason, his immediate family wasn't being allowed to to visit with him on his deathbed.
I guess because he didn't want him.
And something about the Westboro Church had excommunicated him as of about a week or so ago. In the article I read about a week or so ago.
Oh, really?
And so it just gets really crazy, with the conflicts within the church, and then conflicts within the family.
So basically,
now he's dead.
Yeah, but it took him a while to die. You know what they say in Italy, when it's somebody really bad and then it's hard to die, they say, well, that's because the devil
doesn't want him.
Even the devil doesn't want him, so... Yeah, okay. But anyway, it was pretty bad when they were going, and basically cheering. But they came, didn't they come to Tulsa and they were not allowed to demonstrate?
Yeah, I want to say a biker gang outnumbered them. Yeah.
Yeah, and kept them out. Yeah, because they were trying to do it to somebody. And there they are, the family.
I know.
And yeah. That's disgusting. Well, he had a bad death, so that should tell you something. Anyway, let's go. Can't say to happier things because the medical is such a mess that I cannot call it a happier issue.
And speaking of screaming protester maniacs, Michelle Wolven.
You heard about? Yeah.
I just wanted to say that word, Michelle Wolven.
Yeah.
Okay.
The screaming. She hasn't
Let's play word association. Michelle Wolven.
Bill Bond, right?
Yeah. Snake.
Yeah. Bill Bond coming out of unconstitutional trial claiming victory. Well, you are the trial that is totally unconstitutional, violating the laws from left to right. Well, how can you call that victory? Whatever came out of it. Just another screaming demonstration. Anyway, too bad he wasn't on that plane. Of course, he had no excuse to be there, but too bad he wasn't there. Then we would not have heard of him again. Not that anybody's even know him. I understand that
he would have been escorted to safety. He's one of he'd be.
You don't think that he was going to be?
He's a useful idiot.
Yeah, you don't think he would have been defenestrated?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe.
Anyway, so.
I can think of something else ending in strated that would be nice, but anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't. They need to do that in this case. I think he would, to put it mildly, would be one of the enemy of the Westboro Church.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, a lot of those politicians are,
They seem like, you just look at him, such a skinny, pathetic. Yeah.
Not skinny. Well, I don't know. Maybe on a roller coaster diet, but I know after that trial he put on a few pounds.
Oh yeah, with all the kickback he got. But I'm talking about even at the time I saw him for that outrageous deposition.
You could shut that website down if you wanted to, now couldn't you?
Oh, and she is provoking with the curl on her head. It's a provoking curl. Pathetic. Okay. Anyway.
You change your tone or you're going to get contempt.
Mm-hmm. I understand that there are after all this time, there are 2 additional likes on the website of Medical Conspiracy. 2 more.
Really? Yeah, it's been pretty slow, We really get more ads on Spreaker than we do on Facebook.
Yeah. Nothing.
We're like 10,000 or so on Spreaker.
Really?
Yeah, which really for Spreaker isn't a big number either. I mean...
No, because Spreaker is international, but it's still pretty good. Anyway, okay, so what happened last week was... I was discussing...
Let's get onto the main topic of what's going on in the wild and wacky world of disease for profit.
Right. What's happening, and I presented that last week, so in case people haven't heard about it, is the fact that they are trying to pass a law in Congress that basically makes it impossible for you to sue a doctor for malpractice as long as the doctor has followed the medical guidelines.
That's right. I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, and they are trying to pass this law. They are trying to refer at this point to the doctors in Medicare and Medicaid lists. But, that can easily be expanded, and they want, if somebody files a lawsuit against them, it's going to be immediately dropped if the doctor has followed standard guidelines. Which means that if you go to see a doctor, an oncologist, he follows the guideline, you die, then that's it. Your family cannot sue him because he followed the guideline. He might have messed up the drugs given to you too much, messed up the sequence, not pay attention to contradiction in the different type of drugs given to you, and the patient dies, doesn't matter. Nobody can sue him. Okay?
We just didn't start the chemo early enough.
Right. But he followed the guideline. So basically, and the thing that gets me really upset, is they're misusing the word safe harbor. Safe harbors is used for alternative practitioner, holistic healer, homeopathic doctor, all of those outside the AMA that treat patients according to their view of what needs to be done and certain guidelines, not that many, of the alternative medicine. See what happens? That's the word safe harbor that some states have to allow the person to do whatever they see fit in the best interest of the patient without being harassed by the AMA or state agency. That is the safe harbor law. Now they want to twist and change everything and call it safe harbor for member of the AMA. When they make mistake, people want to sue them and they want to protect them from being sued. That's the safe harbor in their opinion. Okay? And right there, they should have picked another word. It's insulting right there. But allowing that is like saying that members of the AMA have a license to kill. They can kill and get away with it. So what I was appealing last week, and I am repeating it now, don't allow that law to pass because it's going to be hell for all of us. So write to your state representative and push it and complain and scream loudly, no, no, no. We will not allow this. No. That is no safe harbor. That is a license to kill. Put an end to it. Safe harbor is for alternative practitioners that are working hard, earning a living, and trying to help patients and save him from the poisoning or standard treatment. That's safe harbor, allowing them to work, make a living, and help people, like I was doing. Okay, that's safe harbor. And I basically was in.
But you didn't follow standard guidelines, though.
I wasn't a member of the AMA.
I was being sarcastic. But
I know. But I was in the state that was the first state from American Indian tradition to introduce the safe harbor law. And then there were 7 more states that did it, but Oklahoma was the first. And the law of the state of Oklahoma do not allow the AMA or FDA or anything to step in. Actually, FDA has no authority to go in and harass an individual practitioner. They did it in my case, because in my case everything is different. But they're not allowed to. So Oklahoma, I was in Oklahoma, the first state to introduce safe harbor laws. And by the way, one of the condition of what alternative practitioners do and are allowed to do in Oklahoma is the use of light. Okay? To heal. Use light to heal. It's in the legislation. But so what the FDA had no power to bother me, no power to do anything.
Unless it's being used for cancer, which is owned by the American Cancer Society. You know.
Well, the word cure, and I never used the word cure. So.
Well, I mean, it's almost like if the word cancer enters the picture, you are subject to this secret little micro shadow organization that runs things, you know. Not so shadow, I don't guess, because it's all out in the open, but it's controlled.
Right, and you cannot use the word cure unless it's a member of the AMA that uses it. Nobody else.
Because there is no cure.
Right.
Right.
There
is no
is.
Cure.
Not in the AMA. But anyway, so FDA, let me repeat it again for the 1,000th time, can only go after people using drugs, the drugs they are used, whether they are allowed or not. Can only do that or intervene in the manufacturing of drugs, of course, and in the manufacturing of medical equipment. Underline manufacturing. If you're not a manufacturing facility, if you're not a pharmaceutical company, FDA has no authority. And in a state where there is safe harbor for alternative practitioner, nothing can be done. Nothing could be done to stop me from doing what I was doing, stopping me from saving lives. So what did they do? They lied. And FDA, they're spies, because the spies are trained to lie and say anything that will allow their purposes to succeed.
Because you were running a retail store.
Right. Then all of a sudden, I was a retail store selling adulterated drugs and
for sale across state lines.
Oh, that was the adulterated medical equipment that was held for sale in interstate commerce. That's when FDA comes in.
Bullshit.
So they came in, and none of that. There was nothing in the things that I had evidence to support that. So what did they have to do? Oh, they had to get into the fraud issue. I know. So, FDA is just, and I have other cases here to discuss of what they are doing right now on other things. But what I said is I wanted to repeat, because the USA has become a government that supports the KGB. So it's basically the USA branch of KGB.
I read, well, I shouldn't say that because it would sound like I'm partisan. I saw an article the other day saying that among Republicans, Putin's approval ratings are higher than Obama.
Well, because they, and mind you, none of us here even likes Obama, but the Republican even worse. They just go along with the. And is the name Putin or Putin?
I don't know. It's probably Putin. Okay. I don't know. I have no idea how to do Russian pronunciation.
How about Puzza? The Italian version of Putin. Puzza. Okay. All right. But now, these are things that were discussed last week and things that were our concern and all the events of last week. But now, what about this week? What is going on? Well, there are two major issues being tackled. There are a few others also, but these are the two major issues being tackled this week.
By the way, we got about 4 minutes.
Okay, so I can just start introducing and then we continue after the break.
Okay.
But
just figure I'd give you a heads up.
The first one is attacking debates on CT scan, basically. We could call the first issue debates on CT scan, because there was an article and apparently some kind of book written, and then a presentation of an interview at Medscape by a professor of medicine and director of women cardiovascular services at the University of California Medical Center. Okay, and she was complaining about CT scan, not so much the value of CT scan in handling, analysis of what's going on with a particular patient and try to get to a conclusion on what needs to be done. But in general, the use of CT scan, are they safe? How safe are they? And are they used properly? There are regulations to control how they're used, and of course, how often they are used. So this article is basically, and her presentation on Medscape is shown on video, And the thing that bothers me about that presentation is the fact that the woman is reading. You can see that her eyes are fixed in front of her, and she really doesn't have any variation of sound, a steady, uniform voice of somebody that, to me, is like it really doesn't believe what she's saying, but obviously she must. But reading it because of just her attitude and not very comfortable in front of the camera, but also her eye fixed in one particular direction and reading a monotone voice. Those are the sign of reading. And you know that I'm not reading.
I got 1 quarter pounder with cheese. You want fries with that?
Only a bit only a bit longer than that, but yeah. As she's discussing the issue, but she's reading. There is no doubt about that, but then she gets into the statistic of it. I think we are getting to the break, though, okay?
Yeah, we've got about a minute.
Oh, we actually have all of that, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. Well, since I'm not reading, I want to say that the intention was good, and I am glad to hear some people that are attacking diagnostic equipment that uses radiation. Of course, it's not just the CT scan that uses radiation, and there are many others, but because she's in the cardiology, so they basically use CT scan. But she's making a good point, and she is really not saying don't use the CT scan. Just don't overuse them and don't misuse them. And it's easy to misuse them. And that's the basic discussion. But I'll get to the more detailed explanation of what she's saying during the next section of the program. We are now really going to the break.
Yeah, I think I can hear the music.
Trust nobody, don't be no fool. Whatever happened to the golden rule? We got stranded.
Riveting talk radio.
Everybody get up.
People cannot get away from the internet.
Well,
now.
I think, and it probably comes from porn as well. You know what I mean, that's got to be a big, strong thing.
Oh, that's gross. That's disgusting.
It freaks me out.
My cheeks are sealed.
We love talk radio.
Bend over, baby.
Do you see what I'm saying?
WeirdTalkSuperstation.com.
Better than sex.
I don't know how good sex is.
We're going to do a lot of drinking.
Talk radio. Bend over, baby. That was great.
Okay, we're back from the break, and just before the break, I was talking about the case of discussion against the CT scan, at least not the CT scan per se, but the way they are used. And the problem, they are overused. Too many CT scans. And the other one is there is no control on the level of radiation being used. So some are really low radiation, some other are operating some other piece of equipment, and the way they're being used, they are operating at a much higher level of radiation. And sometimes within the same institution, like the same hospital, the same clinic. So it's not something that is restricted to one or a few particular cases. No, it's pretty much widespread even within the same organization. So it is because of lack of regulation, inability, a lack of concern by part of the medical, whatever. But it's happening everywhere. And of course that is really damaging because you are exposing the patient to too much radiation. Okay? So, and this is a well-known fact. And I know of, in the past, of a lot of patients that they were giving chemo, and to check out chemo was working to determine if that was the right chemical or not, they were giving them a CT scan every 3 weeks. That's ridiculous. and it's extremely dangerous. And beside, how much CT scan, how much radiation are they using? Are they using the minimum necessary, or are they fluctuating from that? And apparently they're fluctuating way too much, and they're causing problems. So in trying to find out what's wrong with the patient and try to help the patient, they're actually giving them cancer. So that is something, and that's what this woman this professor is presenting, that needs to be controlled. And it's nice that it's coming forward. They should say that about any other, like program, anything, okay? And that's what she's saying. Maybe we should use something else sometimes. And it's true. Sometimes you can use something else. Sometimes an ultrasound is sufficient. Now, she talks about MRI, like MRI had no consequences, and that's wrong. Yes, MRIs do not use ionizing radiation, but MRIs use, like I've discussed many times before, use a very powerful magnetic field, and that causes problem and can cause cancer just as much. And I'm not talking about the case where the equipment fell on the patient. You probably remember when I talked about that new piece of equipment that malfunctioned and squashed the patient like a cockroach. So I'm not even talking about that. They use a lot of malfunctioning of equipment, but I mean they use a lot of a very powerful magnetic field, so that the MRI is not that good either. But she seemed to think, like a lot of other people that don't know any physics, seem to think that an MRI is fine. But the CT scan would be helpful, but they're overused and they have too much misuse. Well, apparently Medscape decided that they needed to interview somebody else also on this issue, and they interview Dr. Jonathan Lipsick, not lip sync, but Lipsick. Okay, it's spelled Leipsic. So what is it? Lipsick?
Leipzig.
Leipzig?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
EI
he's the
is
vice...
I. In German, anyway, EI is supposedly I.
Okay. So, he's the president of the Society of Cardiovascular Computer Tomography, okay? The Society of Cardiovascular Computer Tomography. So, basically, the Medscape, after the presentation done by the professor of medicine and director of cardiovascular services, after those statements, they decided to interview somebody that makes a living by doing CT scans. Okay? Wouldn't you say that's rather biased? Right?
A little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit, yeah. And I think he's a rather hypocritical, typical of medical profession, rather hypocritical individual with an hypocritical approach, because what does he do? He first praises the professor at the California Medical Center for what she said, but because he discusses how she exposed the cancer danger of CT scan. And he's not saying he's not saying and coming out by saying there is no danger of cancer having a CT scan. He's not saying that, and he cannot say and be credible anyway. But what did she say and attacks her? I said, she forgets about all the benefits of CT scan in the clinical outcome of coronary disease. See, in the clinical outcome of coronary disease, the information obtained by CT scans is vital. Okay? So he's not saying she's incorrect, that there is no damage with the CT scan, but what does he do? It turns everything around, divert the attention, and says, all the benefits and the evaluation of cardiovascular condition by CT scan. Basically, what he's saying is it doesn't matter that the patient gets cancer later. But in the meantime, we are resolving, maybe, the cardiovascular problems. So, my statement on this subject is that he richly deserves a Shut Up Your Face award. A mini award.
What's the matter, you? Hey, gotta know respect. Hey, what do you think you do? Hey, why you look so sad? Hey, it's a not so bad. Hey, it's a nicer place. Shut up in your face. Okay, one time for mama, everybody. What's the matter, you? Hey, got no respect. Hey, what do you think you do? Hey, why you look so sad? Hey, it's a not so bad. Hey, it's a nicer place. Shut up in your face.
Okay, now that he's got it. Besides, the doctor said, the professor, she did not say no CT scan. She didn't say abolish the CT scan. She said, do not overuse them and do not abuse them. So you have to be cautious of the danger involved and be careful on how you use it. Just make sure that the equipment is properly calibrated and is actually delivering the minimum amount of radiation necessary to give you an answer without going beyond those limits. That's what she's saying. And he's jumping on it. Oh, she forgets the benefit. Okay, well, that's the same story. Benefits versus bad effects. So, yeah, there are risks, but the benefits are so good that the bad effects don't count. Yeah, okay. But anyway, the award of Dr. Leipzig, okay, should be shared with another doctor by the name of David Schwartz. He's a professor of emergency medicine at the New York University of Medicine. And he's also a specialist in diagnostic imaging and emergency radiology. Don't you think that he also is a biased individual?
Yeah, possibly.
Slightly only, okay? And all of these people, what they're saying is, I'm a specialist and I know that the CT scan are great. I'm a specialist in radiology and I know the CT scan are great. To me, this is just an attempt to divert the attention from the danger by pushing the advantages, supposedly, the potential advantages of CT scan. They are trying to avoid and divert the attention from the fact that they are ionizing radiation is very dangerous. And now, of course, this guy is a specialist in not only diagnostic imaging, but also in emergency radiology. So obviously, he's not going to say anything against radiation. That's why I think he should share the Shut Up Your Face award with the other professor. No, he's not a professor. Leipzig is not a professor. He's just the president of the Society of Cardiovascular Computer Tomography. So, is the president of the Society of people that do CT scans. Yeah, and this guy is a radiologist, so you say they're jumping on the woman that says what you're doing is very dangerous. She didn't say you should stop doing it. She's just saying be careful how you use it. We need regulation to control how it's being done. But no, they don't want to see that. The name of the article, I forgot to say, the original article that brought the spotlight against CT scan was, the title was, We Are Giving Ourselves Cancer. And I don't know that we per se are giving, as individual, are giving ourselves cancer, but the doctors sure are. The doctors that request all these tests, the doctor that requests radiation, they are giving people cancer. And this is something that needs to be stopped. It needs to be controlled. And the CT scan, I'm sure with all the technology we have today, there could be other ways. Now, if it's something not covered by bone, you can use an ultrasound all the time. That's not a problem. If something covered by bone and really internal to the body, then you need something else. But why couldn't we do something that it does not involve radiation and get away completely from the radiation? That's my question. Why can't we do that? And apparently we haven't been able to do it, or we haven't wanted to do it. I don't know. America, anyway, haven't wanted to do it. So that was the person. The criticism of CT scan has been going on for a long, long time. And the funny thing is that some people that criticize CT scan are the same people that support mammograms. Gee, and what's the difference? Yeah. So I don't know. It's always been. But anyway, the other major discussion of this week is called, the title of the article is The Growing Nemesis of Fungal Disease. They don't say call it fungal infection, they call it fungal disease. Now, I like to remind the public, anybody that is listening, and if somebody that is listening for quite a while, to remember what happened in October 2012, like the state of Massachusetts and FDA also came down on a compounding pharmacy, and that was the beginning of another stepped-up attack of compounding pharmacies. Compounding pharmacies have always been the target of state agencies and FDA because their claim is lack of sterility. That has always been the claim. But is it? That's my point. Is it true? That is that. But in 2012, there was this widespread case of fungal infection that caused meningitis. It was a particular strand of fungus that caused meningitis. And that gave the excuse to FDA and the state of Massachusetts to attack this major compounding pharmacy, New England Compounding something. I don't remember the title, but it's New England Compounding Pharmacy, yes. Because of the steroid injection that they were selling, and they claim that the infection, fungal infection, came from those vials, and from those infections, and that was and when it happened in 2012, the number of cases was minimal, considering that more than 14,000 vials had been sold. It was pretty minimal, and somebody didn't make it because meningitis, you never know, so some people died. But that allowed the government and state agency to dive on the compounding pharmacy and basically totally destroy that business, close them down, and then they had all sorts of lawsuits for all directions, just ruined them financially. And my question always was the situation actually what they claim it was, or was somehow exaggerated? But that was the beginning of the attack on all the pharmaceutical company, compounding pharmacy that were compounding pharmaceutical. And those are a lot less expensive than the one from Big Pharma. But the only thing that FDA had to attack him was, lack of sterility. And they used that to close down a lot of compounding pharmacy throughout 2012 and 2013. They used that excuse. Now, it was their fault. There was no sterility. We had the fungus infection. Yes, but was it? Was it really? Because apparently some of the people that got sick did not even have the product of this company. And that type of fungal infection is not contagious, okay? You have to have actually the fungus attack directly your system, not. And any kind of fungal infection is a bear to fight, okay? Really, even the ones that don't cause meningitis, anything, even just skin lesion, they are a bear to fight. So, and in many cases, these doctors are too stupid to recognize what it is, and they let it go and take over, and then it becomes a mess before it's even recognized what it is. But now, this article saying about the nemesis discusses, basically gives you a map of, first it gives you a list of all the different type of fungus that can affect and attack the body. And I think the one, and I'm really reluctant to say the name, the one that was found supposedly in the patient that had taken those injection of steroid from the compounding pharmacy was called the aspergillum, and it can infect human and animal. And the strand, there are many strands of aspergillum, but this particular one is called I am not. Before I say the name, I want to point out the fact that I am not a bigot, okay? But it's not a question of being racist. But this particular strain of aspergillum is called aspergillum niger, okay?
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
These are from the line. Yeah. It is black mold, okay?
And how do you spell that?
Aspergillin, and then nigger, Niger.
Only one G? Well, it would be Niger then, or Niger.
No, it's It's
well,
Niger.
I know the country. The only reason that this even comes up is because nearly every kid who's gone to elementary school in the United States can say this. Well, either they, maybe not. Maybe it was just me, but I know that first graders and second graders get into an elementary school where there's a library and there's an assigned time to go to the library. What's one of the first things that little boys do? They find a big dictionary and they start looking up dirty words. Okay, that's one thing little boys do. Then they'll take the globe of the Earth, and spin it around and start looking at it. And I can remember, I think it was in the second grade when I discovered it, and I was looking at Africa, and I saw Chad and Mali and
Nigeria.
Right, and Niger, though, right there in the area, Niger. There's a country in northern Africa called Niger, or I don't know if it's Northern Africa or Central Africa, but anyway, the kids saw that, and then they started, chuckling and giggling. Look, nigger, and
it is in Latin. Okay, that's a Latin name because of those fungus and other life. It uses the Latin name, and it means it's a black mold. Okay, and black mold does make you terribly sick. Okay, but now. They said that this epidemic was caused by that pharmacy. And now they are claiming that 50 people died and 750 got sick. And that's not what happened when the thing came out. You cannot say that they had this injection and then a year later they got they got meningitis or something. And they are just blaming the compounding pharmacy for all of it. And if you look in this article, they show a map of the United States, okay, and show the different, and let me try to find it, so the different area of fungal infection. And there is the Northeast. Actually, it's a big area up to the middle of the U.S., and the line runs through half of Oklahoma and half of Kansas, a little less than half of Kansas, half of Texas, a quarter of Texas, beautiful. And then a part of the West Coast, and then the part that includes the lower part of Texas and the lower part of Arizona, most of Arizona, and the lower part of New Mexico. But the thing is that they're all different fungus type, all different ones, different name, different one, and with different problem with it. They're not the same that came out of that compounding pharmacy, but they all put it in one block and say these are the cases in the U.S. and now there are cases all over the world. So how can you blame? What it means is they blame the compounding pharmacy for something that wasn't really their doing. An excuse to close down that major pharmacy because Massachusetts, the one in Massachusetts, it was New England Compounding Pharmacy. That was a really big one. And then they went on and closed the smaller ones. They just went on a rampage with that excuse. The same story. Excuses. They use excuses to attack him and say, oh, there is. And now that you find out that it's everywhere, that fungal infection with different family of fungus, okay? One is blastomycosis. The other is coccidioidomycosis. That's wonderful. The other is histoplasmosis. And the other one is Cryptococcus gatti. Okay, they got him from
Cryptococcus?
Yes.
Really? Oh, wow. Boy.
I tell you, they have some juicy name. And let me try to get something about it.
Wow.
I didn't even pick that up, but I picked the gatti. Okay? And there are 37 recognized species of this. Okay? Not just one. The gatti is epidemic in tropical parts of the continent of Africa and Australia. But there's also apparently showing up in the U.S. And it's causing... it is causing the disease called... Cryptococcosis.
What? Cryptococcosis?
Coccosis.
Good
It's
Lord.
Cryptococcus, so it's Cryptococcosis.
Cryptococcosis.
And happen in non-immune compromised people, meaning people that do not have. And you know who the immunocompromised people are?
Cancer
people
patients.
You're not kidding. People with HIV and people on chemo.
Mm-hmm.
But since 1999, there has been an outbreak of Cryptococcus gatti infection in eastern Vancouver Island. And then they also have other cases in the Pacific Northwest, in Canada, and in the United States. So, how can you there are many other cases that are not connected with the compounding pharmacy, but they're spread all over the United States, and they're causing problem because they can't fight it. First of all, it's hard for a doctor to recognize the symptoms that could be a fungal infection, first of all. There we go again, incompetence. And second, I guess they really don't have any remedies that work. And so that thing runs rampant. Okay, some do not produce any disease that causes, threaten the life of a patient, but others are. So, and let's see if it says anything and say that they are in the environment. Okay, these fungi are in the environment, and that's people that contract it. So, my question is, did these people actually got it from the injection of the compounding pharmacy, or that was a great excuse and FDA fudging the results to serve their purposes? Oh no, FDA wouldn't do that, would they?
No, they wouldn't fudge anything.
No, they wouldn't lie, would they?
No.
No,
they're above reproach.
Oh yeah, especially their spy section, right? So to me, they totally destroy your business, and then they complain of shortage of medication, shortage of medicine. Well, close down the factories and see what happens. Okay. Anyway, not okay, but that's what's going on, and I really find disgusting the attitude of FDA, because if there is a compounding pharmacy, well, we need to close it down immediately. And sometimes, as I repeated, in many occasions, they complained about supposed possible problems and asking the company to recall the compound on the assumption that it could hurt the public. And to date, there has only been one compounding pharmacy in Dallas that I told FDA where to go with their request. Only one. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Well, and let's look at manufacturing practices. They can easily attack smaller company that can be damaged by recalling lots of their product sold. Well, Pfizer is issuing a recall of an antidepressant. 3 lots are being recalled. Now, for Pfizer, recalling 3 lots of one medication is really nonsense. It's nothing. But anyway, why they're recalling is because of possible, in reality is actual, contamination of the lot. Okay, we continue after in the second hour.
I am a doctor. Have a seat. We gotta fill out these forms. I'll be with you in a moment.
Off the Air Live. Anything that's fun we're not allowed to do. It's going to get to the point where we're not even going to be able to take a shit because it feels too nice. They're going to be like, oh, you enjoyed going to the bathroom way too much. We're going to have to regulate how often you do that. We're going to have a time and a place where it's away from the children because we don't want our children to know that this exists. Poop is gross, and they shouldn't find out about poop until they're 18. Would it still be indecent if we were to genetically modify the human body so that nipples had eyelids? Would it be okay for you as a woman to remove the top half of your clothes and go out in public? Because is it just the nipple? Is it just that one part? And if it was covered up by more skin that was the same color as the boob, would it be okay? And then I was thinking this, if you really wanted to genetically modify the body, what you could do is that make sure the nipple only opens up for only people that are above the age of 18, even though when they were babies, they sucked on these things. Off the Air Live, Saturday nights at 10 on TalkSuperstation.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, broadcasting from the capital of the world,
New York. New York.
All you do is talk.
This is TalkSuperstation.com.
Permission to speak freely.
You talk your ass off.
Talk. Spoken here.
Welcome to The Medical Conspiracy with Dr. Carpenter.
Okay, we're back for the second hour, and before the end of the first hour, I was trying to introduce the subject. Yes, the compounding pharmacy were totally wiped out of business. Think of all the people that were put out in the street without a job. For what? Just the plans of FDA. Anyway, that's terrible and heartbreaking, the fact that people wouldn't have any other place to go to for the medication they need or they thought they needed. It's just awful. The prices are tremendously different from getting a name brand and getting the same product put together by a compounding pharmacy. The difference is tremendous, almost unbelievable. And so it's another form of eliminating the competition. But I want to point out how biased FDA is. And I was starting to introduce the idea of Pfizer that announced a recall of 3 lots of their antidepressant drug. Okay? 3 lots being recalled. Why are they being recalled? Because the bottles contained Mixing with antidepressant, they had another kind of medication, which is a hard drug. And they're recalling the lot because the possible danger involved in this hard drug can cause death of the patient, can be deadly. Okay? Now, my question to you is this. With proper manufacturing practices and a properly handled facility, how you tell me how you get one drug in the container of another drug? How? And not always just a few pieces here and there. How do you do that? If you are handling proper manufacturing practices. Not possible. I had to be some serious problem, but did FDA go after Pfizer? Did FDA request to they review and fix and handle the manufacturing practices? Did they? Of course not. Just recall those laws. And FDA, what did they do? On the other hand, they denied the approval of a new drug that is glucose lowering not because they have any doubts of the testing done by the producing manufacturing company, pharmacy. No, they don't have any doubts because it's similar to products already on the market. They have concerns for the manufacturing facility. Now, they don't have any concern for the manufacturing facility of Pfizer that mixed up different drugs. They don't have any concern for that. But they do have concern for the manufacturing facility of, it is Eli Lilly? Yes. Eli Lilly and Company. They have concern about their manufacturing facility. And they cannot approve the drug until they get information on how that is corrected. Now, let me explain the history of these drugs. This drug would have been the third of its kind that is available to the general public. One was approved last year, at the end of March of last year. And another one was recently approved after the second attempt. Now, this one is not being approved, not because, and the name is empagliflozin. Yeah. Boy, what name.
Well, these drug names.
Yeah.
Never cease to amaze me.
But it seems to me that FDA is achieving two things. First of all, more money, because they refuse to grant approval, so the company, whatever they need to do, if any, and then they come back with more application fees and everything, try to get approved. So first of all, it's more money. And in my opinion, by delaying the approval of a competition on the market, is giving more time to the companies that have the product just approved, more time to make revenue out of that product that cost them so much to get it approved. So basically is helping the companies that they have paid so much money to get FDA approval. So they're giving them more time by not approving other drugs and delaying the approval of other drugs. It's just a game played by FDA. It has nothing to do with the safety to the public. It has nothing to do with anything except the money coming into FDA. And we're allowing something like that to continue. FDA should immediately be closed down and dismantled, and then create another organization with different rules so they cannot profit by approving or not the drug or delaying the approval of a drug. This cannot do what they're doing now. It should be the Eli Lilly drug, that Eli Lilly's, I mean, with that ridiculous name, is trying to get approved. Work. How does it work? By increasing the urinary glucose elimination, which would lower the plasma glucose level. So I don't know if there are any dangers involved in it, but FDA is only worried about the facility. Not the Pfizer facility, but this one. Okay? So when it's worrying about facilities, it's absolutely selective. This one, but not that one. Okay? Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. And then, what is happening in the U.S. about other things? And one of the, I found it really interesting was, let's see, those are all the article. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to tell you that the antidepressant that Pfizer is recalling, it has some side effects and some problem, and I am not sure whether these problems are with, they are with the presence of the drug, of the heart medication that was contaminating and they are saying that are causing drug interaction that can be fatal between the antidepressant and this heart medication. Okay, this particular one. And the signs are if the patient starts feeling faint, dizzy, or has a fast heart rate. And I just wanted to say that just in case people have taken that before the recall, okay? And the name of the drug that was the antidepressant that was contaminated, the generic name is venlafaxine. And geez, I'm just getting to but the brand name is Effexor. That's not much better, is it? Okay. And Effexor.
Sounds like a villain from a sci-fi movie.
I know. I mean, where do they come up with this name? And it was contaminated with tacozine. That's a heart medication that was contaminating the Effexor. Tacozine, that causes different diseases, but combined with Effexor is deadly. Okay, and how did they come to contaminate one with the other with that kind of danger involved? Did they close down? No closing down. Just recall. What about the others? Maybe there are other lots that have a problem. We don't know. Okay. All right. But they have a facility concern for, what is the name of this Eli Lilly and Company drug? Is called empagliflozin. Empagliflozin. Okay, I give up where they come with these names. Okay. All right. So, now, we have a report on what's going on in the drug intake in the U.S. And in this particular case, as I discussed in the past, I think even last week, the majority of drug addiction in the U.S. is of legal drug. Legal. Okay? But what we were saying is, what is the status of illegal drugs consumption in the U.S. So, as of March 10 of this year, the conclusion is that the American use of cocaine has fallen to half the amount. From 2006 to 2010 has fallen 50%.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So marijuana, but get this, okay? Marijuana use has increased by more than 30%.
And I just read the other day somebody saying that it had decreased. Boy.
This article says that the cocaine has decreased a lot, but the marijuana has gone up. But my question is, how can you put in the same sentence cocaine and marijuana?
I know. Because of the law. Because of the
They're
law.
on my foot, because there are 2 states that have it legal, so they don't have
What I mean is because of we've got a
Yeah.
legacy of the legacy of it being part of this taboo, you know.
Yeah, but now things are changing, and still they have an article that put him in the same level. Now, heroin is stable. The use of heroin is stable. But amphetamine, as the use of amphetamine has risen sharply during the first half of the decade, 2010. And then has fallen down. But get this, don't fall off your chair. Americans spend $100 billion a year on cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and methamphetamine.
Wow. $100 billion a year.
Which makes it $1 trillion in the decade. Where do they get all this money? You know? And the government is complaining because the drug revenue is going to criminal organizations. Okay, let me tell you something. And the government is not criminal? They want the revenue to go to them, not the criminal organization. But the government is another criminal organization. So what's the difference?
Well, exactly, and the government is in cahoots with drug runners. It's just selective enforcement of the law. The Sinaloa drug cartel, and you know, we were helping them.
I know. Yeah, and it says it used to be that in 2000, that much more money was spent on cocaine than on marijuana, but now by 2010 has been reversed. But see, you cannot compare the two things. You know?
No.
That's my view. You cannot compare the two things. Totally different. You might compare cocaine and heroin. You might
amphetamine. I would compare cocaine to methamphetamine because that's what they call meth, is poor man's coke. That was the slang for it.
Okay, so in that case, and you can have that confirmation when there was this interview of Whitney Houston before she died, by Barbara Walters, I think, and she got really hot under the collar, insulted when basically Barbara Walters were talking about crack cocaine, and she got insulted. I'm not talking about crack. Like, you know, there is a class, better class of drug addicts use cocaine and not crack. Oh, gee, big deal. They're both garbage. Anyway, but compared to marijuana, I just don't see that. Okay, and they do trying to give that. And when it comes down, the concern is because all the money is not going to the government. It always goes back to finances. Forget the people. Forget what it does to them. Forget the problem. And cocaine, it's just way up in problems and effect of killing people than marijuana. So they should not even be put on the same scale anyway. But, and then you have the criminal. Yeah, the government is not criminal. Sure. Okay, and now, talking about the other big money-making operation in the U.S., what is it? Cancer. That's the other big money-making. Okay? That's why I ended up the way I did, just like a compounding pharmacy, and not general use of medication, but just cancer, but it's the same thing and the same behavior. And by the way, I like to point out that the method used are always the same. There is no originality in the behavior and charges coming from FDA. No originality whatsoever. And when all else fails, they cannot even prove lack of sterility. When they can't even do that, then what would they go to? Fraud. Okay, so now this article comes forth and says that the U.S. could face a shortage of cancer doctors. Oh my God, what a tragedy. Okay? Here it says, people fighting cancer might have to wait longer to see a cancer specialist in the coming decades, as the demand for treatment outpaces the number of oncologists entering the workforce. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? They have to wait longer to see a cancer specialist. And you know what that means?
You're gonna lose valuable time.
Yeah! Money making valuable time. That's awful, right? because people are gonna have more time to think about what they're gonna face and maybe look for an alternative. That's tragic, right? That's what's going to happen if they have to wait longer. That's why now they try to grab them right off. But, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, they say that the demand for cancer treatments, is expected to grow by 42% or more by the year 2025. Gee, who knows what's going to happen by then? People just can't get through their head that this is an ever-changing world. Life is constantly changing. You think that in 2025 people are still going to allow to be maimed and poisoned and killed with the chemo or radiation? No, I hope not, and I don't think so. And you cannot make a plan that nothing will change. As much as the medical establishment is working at it, so nothing will change. But can you say it won't? And you say, well, the demand, is the demand or is the push from the medical? Okay? I doubt that is the demand, is what the medical is pushing. So let's change the phrase in that article. The push for cancer treatment by AMA member is expected to grow by 25% by 2025. But the supply of oncologists is expected to increase only by 28%. Oh, what a tragedy. And is this the one that escaped being lynched by the mob? Because in my opinion, if things are not changed and they don't improve what they're doing, there'll come a time when they will be lynched, because if people find out what could have been done and it was intentionally suppressed, I don't know what's going to happen. What is going to be the reaction? We're going to revert to the Western time and there'll be some lynching going on. That's my... Well... This article says that people living in rural areas will be hardest hit by the shortage. See? Only 3% today, only 3% of oncologists are based in rural areas. And instead, 20% of Americans live in rural areas. I can begin to think why would they want to live in rural areas. I hate it. But that's another story. That's another story. But what I'm saying is, okay, and isn't it true? Isn't it true that people in rural areas are the first to go for alternative choices? It is. Because they have more time, they don't get harassed as much, is oppressed so much by the member of the medical, and they have time to look for alternatives. And then, of course, the medical loses valuable time. But if they don't have time for these people, why not let them go? Yeah, well, you know the answer to that. Why not let them go? Because they could possibly talk to people that have easy access to medical and keep those from going for standard torture. You know, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, this article go on tooting their own horn and going on with their own prediction and say that the increase in the cancer population, people seeking cancer treatment, is due to aging of the baby boomer generation. Now, if you're talking going out to 2025, there isn't going to be any baby boomer left, okay? If they are now in their 60s, there are not many going to be left in 2025, okay? Especially if they go for standard treatment. And also all the cancer survivors, they're survivors. And they all want to keep contact with their oncologist, even though they're cancer-free. Gee, I don't know of any cancer survivor that is actually cancer-free. They still have to have maintenance done. They still have problems. They still have a lurking type of cancer, different type, caused by medication. But fully cancer-free, not really. Okay? But the report on this subject said that it won't be enough cancer doctor to meet the demand. As I said, no member of the AMA, but they can go somewhere else. If the AMA is trying to stop that, because that means lost revenue. Okay, so what's the solution in this predicted gap in specialists? So oncologists, a specialist of what? Pill pusher, specialist in poisoning people. But anyway, so it's good to have a shortage of those, but the AMA doesn't think so. But the opinion of this doctor, Stephen Paulson, an oncologist and hematologist in Texas, at Texas Oncology, he says that the challenges facing practicing medical oncologists are making it very difficult for a small or even medium-sized oncology practices to survive. And many older physicians are simply retiring and giving up, making the worsening of the story. So the point and the plan here is shift some of their simpler cases, simpler cancer treatment cases, to trained nurse practitioner and physician assistant. Well, they're doing that now anyway. He says if they're properly trained, they have nurse practitioner and physician assistant. They have the skill to handle uncomplicated cancer patients. And primary care physician can play a role by taking care of cancer survivors. So the regular physician, primary care, they can take care of cancer survivors. And the golden tower, a real expert, is out there, isolated from the rest, from the run-of-the-mill work, and handling complicated cases. Complicated cases when they just, they turn them over to the nurse and say, hook them up to the chemo, and that's it. Or the radiologist hook them up and put them in the radiation chamber, and that's it. Fry them to a crisp. Okay, here what they say is most new doctors physicians basically, require 2 to 3 years in an oncology fellowship before they're ready to practice. So what other degrees call it for postdoctoral research. And Medicare pays only for the first year of this training. So, and because of the limited financing by Medicare, the number of people going for cancer training has been falling. So, because of not that many fellowships are available, so we are using oncologists.
Got about a minute.
Because, okay. Sorry. So we are using oncologists, and we are going to lose more oncologists because people cannot afford to go for the training. And now my question to you, which will be dealt with during the last section of this program, I'm asking the question. Is that really bad news? We'll talk about it after the break.
You're such a silly woman. Put the lime in your coconut and drink them both together. Put the lime in the coconut and you feel better. Put the lime in.
Here we are.
With her years of experience at the Sunshine Cab Company, you can count on Mary Lou Henner to get you home.
I mean, I'm a nice person. I work hard.
Well, you've got all the answers.
Drive home with Mary Lou Henner.
I've been pinching myself over this. I really have.
Hey, it's Mary Lou Henner. Join me right here on TalkSuperstation.com.
The Mary Lou Show, 5 Eastern, weekday afternoons on the Talk Superstation.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Talk radio.
The only home without it.
Take the Talk Superstation with you wherever you go.
Okay, who's using their iPhone?
Search for TalkSuperstation.com on the TuneIn Radio smartphone app and save it as a preset.
I'm going to switch the station. No, you don't switch the station.
We're also available on the Shoutcast radio app.
Well, let's get going.
Where loquacity meets mobility. TalkSuperstation.com.
Okay, we're back from the last break, and we are in for the last section of this week's show. And one thing that I really wanted to stress is the mess we are in cancer treatment, and that's not because the prediction of shortage of oncologists. Actually, the prediction of shortage of oncologists, if it actually happened, it's like the light at the end of the tunnel, because they're saying patient will have to wait longer to be treated and to see an oncologist. Well, that is to me the best news that somebody can get, because one of the problems that a lot of patients are presenting is the fact that they went in, and when they were first diagnosed, they were rushed into making a quick decision and going very quickly into radiation or chemo or surgery, and then followed by all the rest, trapped into the system too quickly, because getting the news that you have cancer is a shocking experience. It shouldn't be, but it's shocking because of what the AMA has done to people up to this point. So you have to recover from that shock before you can actually get your wits together and try to figure out, okay, this is another trouble, another challenge in my life. How do I deal with it? If you have time to think, it's not very likely that you go through standard torture. Some people might, but it's not very likely. The majority of patients are snatched by the system very quickly during the stage of shock. when they're still into shock because of the news and the horrid word starting with the C, or what they perceive a horrid word starting with the C, when they're still under that shock, then they can be grabbed by the medical system and they can be used and abused. But if they have time to think, then common sense settles in. And common sense will tell you that being mutilated, poisoned, and radiated, fried to a crisp, cannot be a solution. Damaging your body in the hope that you're damaging the cancer is not a solution whatsoever. It's not. It's only making something bad even worse. Worse because your condition will worsen, and worse because you'll be broke. So, insurance or not, you'll be broke. So, that is not a bad thing to have time to think what you want to do next. You get over the initial fear. You have time to get over the initial fear and realize that your life is not in immediate danger. It might be in danger, but not immediate danger. And you have enough time to think of what you need to do or what you want to do. And what is presented to you is not a valid alternative to anything. Now, unfortunately, naturopathic alternatives are not necessarily good. They might be good for a lot of things. For cancer, no. You have somebody telling you must be on diet. You cannot eat this. You cannot eat that. You cannot eat that. You cannot have meat. You cannot have sweets. You cannot have anything with nourishing value. You can only have a worthless diet. That is going to make you sick. And if your system is weakened, the cancer, can be weakened by the lack of nutrients. But it can be made stronger by the fact that your immune system is malfunctioning. So, diets are not a solution and a stupid route. And then, of course, the other big thing of the alternative is boost the immune system. Okay. First, you want to destroy the immune system with diets, and then you want to boost it with supplements. And is that not just a way to sell supplements? I think that's what it is. You are giving all sorts of supplement, which is intended to make the immune system stronger. It's the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish with a diet. And is working? No. Because if you are making your immune system stronger, your body starts to feel good. And so does the cancer. Because the immune system cannot attack your own DNA. And that's what cancer has. It's not a different DNA. It's you. Just a certain cell growing out of control, but it's still you. So boosting the immune system can only cause the cancer to grow, not to slow down its growth. And in many cases, it gives you too much activity of the immune system, and you end up having all sorts of rashes, and you're coming out of your, looks like you're coming out of your skin, and then you might even end up with lytic lesion because it's almost like osteoporosis, which is too much activity by the immune system. And then, of course, that is easily mistaken as bone cancer, and there you go. Chemo, to control the bone cancer that you don't have. So anyway, as I said, alternative medicine is not necessarily a good solution. Sometimes in some cases can work, but in other cases it does not. And if something doesn't work all the time, that is not a solution. It works accidentally, that is not a solution. And you're only going to make richer your alternative practitioner. You're not going to accomplish anything else. And you're going to end up not making it. So you have to keep that in mind. And I have been criticized like you wouldn't believe, because they say, oh, she doesn't believe in anything else and she's only pushing what she is doing. That's what they were saying in the past. No, I don't believe in anything else because I know it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked in years. It doesn't do anything. And even if with alternative methods you are lucky enough to slow down the growth of the cancer, that's all you're doing. You're not killing it, you're just slowing. They're not even halting the growth, you're just slowing it down. And it will eventually reach a point where you cannot do anything about it anymore and will resume growing out and actually growing out of control at that point. So that is not the solution. The solution is to kill the cancer. Only the cancer. Kill it in place so you don't have bleeding, so you don't have any trauma to the body. This is what I said should be done. This is what was working. This is one that was giving great results. And of course, that had to be stopped. So, Ray Lesmedine made them close down for lack of money, harassed the principal investigator, make her life miserable, throw her in the gutter with a miserable existence, because we cannot allow to have cancer be wiped out of the planet. We cannot allow that because there's too much money involved in the cancer. We have to keep it up, and we have to keep the pharmaceutical company alive, because they're not only making money with cancer, they're making money with a lot of other things, and everybody must get stoned. Not with the illegal drugs, but with legal one.
Well, it's legal in a lot of states now. Yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm not talking about that stuff. But and by the way, neither was Bob Dylan, because he was actually talking about people getting naturally stoned.
You just reminded me of a little graphic I saw on Facebook today, or no, it was actually yesterday. What did it say? Hang on a second. I actually saved it. It was about Sarah Palin. And, oh, yeah. Showed a picture of Sarah Palin with a little quote beside it. It says, "We should create law based on the God of the Bible." And the caption underneath it says, "Agreed, let's start by stoning your daughter to death for having premarital sex. Then your husband can beat you for attempting to exert your authority over males." I just thought that was hilarious, though.
Yeah, you have to be careful what you say. Yeah. I don't know that anybody liked that woman.
You betcha.
You betcha. What an idiot. Anyway. Okay. And about the statement of everybody must get stoned, okay? This report on drug.com report latest health and medical news developments. Okay, what's the verdict? ADHD drug used by young adults doubled in recent years. Okay? Here they're saying they're used by young adults, like the young adults go out and use it on their own, with their own decision, with their own conclusion, and then they take those. No, let's wake up, guy. There is a doctor guilty behind all of this. Many doctors. Okay? And the report says that the number of American adults ages 26 to 34 receiving drug treatment for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which ADHD, double between 2008 and 2012. Almost double. From 340,000 to 640,000. And the total number of American adults, now this is not the young adults, young American adults, this is the adults taking ADHD drugs, rose 53% during the same amount of time, from 1.7 million to 2.6 million. Okay, now I am asking you, why would an adult take ADHD medication? And why what they say young adults, I would say young adults is a little younger than 26 to 34. Young adults will be up to 26, maybe. But 34 is no longer a young adult. It's an adult. Okay. Why would an adult take that garbage? I can see. No, I can't. But kids.
Well, I can remember kids taking Ritalin like, speed. I remember one kid that I knew back in my wilder days. Let's just say he had some Ritalin, and he, well, just to be blunt about it, he chopped them up with a razor blade into powder and sniffed it.
Okay, but that it's an illegal use. Here we're talking about legal use.
Mm-hmm.
These and what was he doing for him?
Said it was like speed.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because the medication
of course, if you're an ADHD, though, it supposedly has the opposite effect on you.
Right, you're supposed to be going down, But why an adult would take that?
Yeah, I don't know.
And these are all prescribed, okay? Because here it says that in 2012, 7.8% of boys and 3.5% of girls ages 4 to 18 were prescribed the drug. So, less girls than guys. Why would adults take that? I mean, kids are prescribed the drugs. The parents probably are stupid enough to think that they should take that stuff, and they make them take it. But when you're older, why would you take it? I don't understand that. And the conclusion of this article is that the ADHD is being overdiagnosed and overtreated in children, and that the same situation could occur in adults. But then the doctors say, get this doctor, who is an idiot, but I mean, who is he? He's at the New York University Langone Medical Center. He said to the New York Times that we still know that the majority of adults with ADHD are untreated. Majority of adults with ADHD? How does an adult have ADHD? That doesn't make any sense. This is the dumbest thing I've heard. Just a wish to keep everybody doped, calm, and not opposing me. Okay, an adult having ADHD is an adult that is fighting what's going on at work. My conclusion is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've definitely worked with some hyper people.
Frustrated by their work. Does not need a drug. The drug is to accept their doom. Okay, not to handle reality. And then this stupid doctor, I should have given him a word to him too. He comes off and say, oh, they're untreated. Oh, shut up your face. Okay. Not okay, but I mean, with this ADHD, it doesn't exist. It doesn't even exist. It's a fabrication of the medical establishment to find an excuse to drug first the kids and then everybody else. And so we comply with the stupid rules that we put on them. That's my interpretation of ADHD. Anyway, so what else is going on? Okay, there is apparently hepatitis C is running rampant, and they have recently approved hepatitis C drugs, and the name of the drug for hepatitis C is Sovaldi.
Sounds like an Italian name.
It sounds like, but it really isn't, because it would have been if it was Soval. I don't know. But anyway, the company is Gilead Science. Not Gila Monster, it's Gilead Science. Okay, well, the point is that this drug costs $1,000 per pill.
I bet that drug's got all the endorsements of the biggest medical powers in the United States.
Yeah, but
promising new frontier with this new promising new drug.
You would think, but actually that's not what happens, because this would boost the California drug cost by 18 billion, bringing it up to 29 billion per year, just for hepatitis C, not for other medication. Okay? Now, they say they're gonna release the conclusion about the validity of this drug next month, along for their conclusion with the existing drug called Olizio. Well, at least this is it. Well, Sovaldi is not very difficult, but Olizio, I guess, is easy, and that's from Johnson & Johnson. By the way, Sovaldi was approved last year by the FDA and is to be taken once a day and has the ability to cure between 80 to 90% of patients. At least that's what's claimed. The previous standard treatment for hepatitis C required the patient to take up to 12 pills a day and only affected 75% of the people with hepatitis C. And Sovaldi was enthusiastically received by doctors due to the convenience, because it's only one pill once a day, and better results. But some providers, even beside the patient, some providers are starting to question the cost. The average is a 12-week course of the drug, and that will cost $84,000. But some patients need to take 2 courses, so think of that, $168,000. Price of a house. Not in California, but still. But they say that the cost of Sovaldi is not even remotely justified. They say other drugs that the company sells is much less, so it's not justified. Now, of course, they wouldn't know what it cost them to get it approved, so that's part of the cost. But they said it exists, but it's too expensive. Well, I think that now tamoxifen is still $800 a pill, so not much difference, is there?
Oh.
And they take tamoxifen for a long time, not just, what was it here? 12 weeks? Yeah. And maybe for a year, but tamoxifen, you take it for years and years. So I don't know, okay? But that's what they are criticizing, the cost of that particular drug. Could it be that it's from an unknown company? Oh, anyway. The other thing that they have come to a conclusion about is, how popular the nicotine patch is used to stop smoking. Now my question is, does it really work? Do people really stop smoking with the nicotine patch? I have no idea. Did you try it, Randy? Or just...
Well, it didn't really... It temporarily helped me stop. I picked up on my own again, though. I mean, if I had had a little more willpower, I might have been able to stop. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to really stop.
I know you didn't, but I thought that maybe that could work whether you wanted to or not. But get this. It does not help at all pregnant women. Pregnant women that are trying to stop with a nicotine patch doesn't help. And apparently the study that has been done where? Let me try to... there was a French women? Yeah. 400 in 2 pregnant women in France. Okay, what they concluded is not only it didn't help, but also there was no difference between the women on placebo and the one on nicotine patch. No difference at all. I don't know. That tells you something. Yeah. And a very low percentage of women that actually quit smoking entirely. Very low. 5.5%. So, with the nicotine patch and 5.1% with the placebo. So, statistically speaking, there is no difference. But 5.5% is pretty pathetic altogether. So obviously they're good in deciding that it's worthless for pregnant women. I wonder if it's worthless for others too. I don't know. That's okay. Okay. Now we got another of the many things that in my opinion, FDA is sticking its nose where it doesn't belong. Okay, that's my view, and I think there is another fundamental excuse for doing so and coming to the conclusion they come to. What is going on here is, for some reason, FDA is looking into the pap test, and that has been done for years. I really only had it once, and that was it, and that was enough for me. I said, just get away from me. But FDA experts are debating if the pap test should be the first line of defense that has been done up to this point. What they say is that the first line of defense should be HPV virus testing. Yes, you can see where this is leading to.
Oh, cancer viruses.
Well, the pap test is too, but can you see the HPV virus testing as the first line of defense?
Yeah, sell more drugs. Yep,
that's exactly right, and that's what comes up at the end of this article. Goes all over FDA analyzing that and the reason why it's better to have the HPV virus first and then maybe eventually the pap test, but HPV virus test first. And it goes on and on explaining how that has been used and what's the advantage of using the HPV virus testing and the age at which should be done. 16 to 18 year of age girls, get real, buddy. Okay? But anyway, and then other age ranges and everything. And then they say if there is a suspicion, then we can support additional testing and have the patient get one of those. It's called colposcopy, but it's the same as for the colon is colonoscopy. This is colposcopy. And to me, that name, it means it's guilty. Culpa.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, what they're saying is the HPV virus testing is a lot more effective in predicting what to do next than the pap test. And beside, there are 2 approved vaccine for HPV. So, what are they going to do? Do the HPV virus testing first, since the patient doesn't have any. Oh, but you need to be protected for the future. So there you go, Gardasil. See what all of these studies that appear to be unrelated and pretty innocent, and an FDA debating what should be done, because they all pushed by the company that makes Gardasil. They want to push the use of Gardasil that the public does not want at all. The public has refused on many occasions and on many, no matter how they present it, it still get rejected. So they try other angle. And they keep coming on it, and they keep coming on it, and they keep coming, harassing the public. Go away. That's what we have said to the push of Gardasil. We have said that. A lot of parents, a lot of people have said that. Go away. No, we don't want it. And they keep trying to feed it to you from one excuse to another. It's not ending. Yeah.
We're about to hit the end.
Okay.
We got about 30 seconds.
Okay. The other push is about starting drugs. I can talk about it next week. It's the same thing. You don't want it, you have to have it because we said so. Okay. Yeah.
Boy,
so, support your rights, fight, and say no. And then have a good week, and we talk about next week. Hopefully, you're going to hear this show. This week, there won't be any problem. You're going to hear it.
Talk, spoken here.
Yeah. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to The Medical Conspiracy with Dr. Carpenter.